Welcome to Tracks to Success, brought to you by Presentation Partners. This is the podcast that brings you inspiring people and their inspiring stories. How did they find their way to the top, and how can their path help you do the same? Here's your host, network broadcaster, executive, and entrepreneur, Kraig Kann.
Right now, on this edition of Tracks to Success, he's a former professional golfer turned entrepreneur, but you'll probably recognize the name from his ties to country music. He was born and raised in Athens, Georgia, with designs on long drives and putts for birdie and a long career on the PGA Tour. But his drive changed, and music became his full-time big thing. He's now a singer, songwriter, and top performer, mixing country music and hip-hop to the tune of 7 studio albums to date, including one that made it to #1, and also a hugely successful duet with Jake Owen. To see him on stage in person is to see a man of the people who has purpose and passion for making his audience sing and dance and wait in long lines for autographs and pictures. More than that, he's got a heart as big as his dream. Just like the name of his album, his professional ride through the country is picking up steam and a bigger following with every audience who sees him do his thing. His name is Jason Brown. Country fans know him as Colt Ford. His inspiring story and this edition of Tracks to Success starts now. Well, Colt, this is a real thrill for me. I mean that. Another musician on Tracks to Success and a guy who I've seen a couple of times. I really appreciate you taking the time to join me. Let's have some fun with this thing, huh?
Looking forward to it.
Well, I started thinking about where I wanted to start, and I think I have to start with the name, Colt Ford, okay? We'll go backward from that, but your name is Colt Ford, sort of. Tell me why Jason Brown doesn't fit in Nashville, because that's really your name.
That is really my name. Colt Ford just sounds pretty daggum cool, you know? It's a pretty all-American name, and, it was just one of those things. I just thought, maybe need something that would have a little, cachet to it or whatever. And it's like, sorry, alarm going off. Just thought that might be cool to have. And, and here we are.
Well, here you are. And I'm sure a lot of people kind of dig that. It does sound cool. So 6 albums and then the 7th, which is titled We the People, which I think says a lot really about you. Because I feel like you're one of those guys, one of those artists, one of those performers that really is about the people. Is that a fair assessment?
That is a fair assessment. I love people. I love my dad is a very people guy, and it was, something I was raised around. He was in the car business and, in a little old used car lot. And he coached baseball, and people still refer to him as coach. And so I just love the people. And I think if you want to be, especially in the business that I'm in, or, even what you do and have done all these years, like if you don't like people, you might ought to find you something else to do. I don't understand sometimes artists and, and athletes and stuff get all frustrated, don't want to do meet and greet or don't want to take a picture. It's like, without the fans, I wouldn't be here. So I never get tired of that. I love hearing the stories. I love hearing what a song means to somebody. And it's just, it's super cool to me. If I couldn't deal with the people, that's why this whole thing, in full disclosure, Kraig, I had to start an antidepressant during this whole deal, because I'm just that's what I do. I interact with the people. I spend time with them. I talk to them. I hear the stories. I take the pictures, and I call their kids or grandkids or cousin, or talk to, our son serving overseas. And it's like, not being able to do that, it really took a toll on me. I'm not gonna lie.
COVID has taken a toll on so many people. So let's talk about that for a quick second. It's really dominated 2020, and you just basically opened up saying how much it's affected you, and it's affected so many others. My gut tells me that when you are able to get back out there and perform, that's going to be a big part of your return is kind of being with the people and trying to make people feel better and give them something that they haven't had for a long time, but also that you haven't had.
Yeah. I mean, it's as much, I guarantee you it's as much or more for me than it is for them, to be honest with you. I mean, it's just, good Lord, I love playing, and I love that feeling of being on stage. I love seeing people forgetting about, whatever's bothering them or stuff they got going on during the day, and out there just just happy, singing along and smiling. I love that feeling.
I can't sing. I can't perform. I can speak, and I know a little bit about golf, which is one of the other reasons I really wanted you to be on this podcast. We're going to get into that in just a little bit. And I think we have that bond a little bit. Couple of questions I want to get out of the way because our audience probably doesn't know your background. I'm going to get into that in a second. First of all, who's your favorite golfer all time and why?
Wow. There's so many. There's a lot of choices there. Obviously, you got to love Mr. Nicklaus. I grew up, I'm the same age as Gary, his son, and we played junior golf and amateur and collegiate golf and professional golf together. I guess I'm an Arnold Palmer guy, though. I just, the way he interacted with the people, is just, I try to do that with my music. And he signed every autograph. He took every picture. He just got it. And so many of these younger players out there today, they really just need to really watch his documentary and realize, like, this is the guy. The reason you guys are playing for so much of this money and things that are happening for you is because of a guy like that. And I remember I've heard this story a couple times, and from him, I was lucky enough to play golf for a living, and I was on Peerless staff for a while, which was his company, Palmer Peerless. And I remember I've heard the story about Curtis Strange asking him, how do you do all that, sign all those autographs and take all the pictures? He said, well, you don't have to. You just need to give the money back. And I thought that has really stuck with me. Like, I get on to other artists, it's like, you don't have to do all that, but you do like those buses you ride around in and the money you make. And it's these fans that make that happen. So I'll never forget that or take that for granted.
Well, the other part of your career and your story is not just golf. It's obviously performing, which is what most people know you for. Who's your favorite singer or artist all time and why?
Oh, Lord. Those are hard questions to answer because there's so many that are so iconic. Music is even more. I love so many different people for different reasons. I'm a huge Elvis fan.
Really?
Yeah, my parents loved Elvis. My dad loved him. And so, you fall into that. I loved Elvis, the way he performed and the dancing and all that. You've seen me play before. I do a lot of that on stage, and I don't know. It'd be hard to say. I think there's just so many. Good Lord, Prince was incredible. I'm a huge Run DMC fan. There's so many that have moved the needle. There's a lot of artists that are successful, but not everybody moves, changes the kind of musical landscape. And it's so funny for me because so many people say, that I created this whole new genre and this whole new movement now. And it's like, I didn't mean to do that. If that happened, that's great. I was just trying to make music, but to be even mentioned that I did something like that blows my mind. But, cause I don't take myself too seriously. You know me pretty well. I don't, I play music for a living. I'm not a neurosurgeon. I don't like egos and attitudes. To be, get over yourself and do your job and have fun and be nice to people. It's pretty simple,
Country hip hop, country rap, all that. You blend everything together. Anybody that's seen your show knows that you're not just this country music star. You've got something else to offer, right? That's what you try to do.
I love all that stuff, and I love mixing it all together. And here's the deal: as long as it's not made up, anything that's authentic and original, I appreciate. That doesn't mean it might not be something that you love or you listen to all the time, but at the same time, if it's authentic and original, I really have a strong appreciation for any artist that's willing to do that and put themselves out there and go, it's easy to go out there and go, I'm going to do this and I'm going to copy this guy and be like that. I mean, that's great, but to be out there doing your own thing, your own way, there's something to be said for that, And right now, you got that going on in golf. Look at what Bryson DeChambeau is doing. I mean, it's his own thing, his own way, and it's amazing. It's amazing to watch. It's great for the game. It's just great to see people do that. It gives young people or anybody a opportunity or a thought to go, hey, I can do it my way. I mean, I can do it my way. Let me try what I think and see how that works. And I think that's exciting.
Got to be authentic. That's what sells, and that's what makes brands. Let's talk about this podcast, which is called Track to Success. All right. And that's what I want to talk about, is your track to success. Let's go back. Athens, Georgia. That's where this thing all started. I want to figure out how it came to be. I want to figure out about Colt Ford as a kid and Jason Brown as a kid. Big house, small house. What was your life like back then?
It was small. I mean, again, I didn't come from big money. My dad was, again, he didn't have indoor plumbing until he's 18 years old, and he picked cotton. He's from Hartwell, Georgia. My mom's from Anderson, South Carolina. Parents both worked in the mill. They lived in a little mill house on the hill. I mean, so my dad worked his tail off. He's the best person that I've ever met. And, he took his little old used car business and sold probably 3 times as many cars as any other individual in that town. And it was a pretty normal upbringing. I was speaking with some people, I don't know how familiar you are with Athens, but Athens it's a great town. It's a great town. It's a great sports town. You got the college, you had small town living, you got a college. It's just unbelievable to grow up there. And you kind of didn't realize it till you get older. And I was speaking with one of my really good friends that played baseball for my dad's a guy named Don Perno, and he's the head pro at Peachtree Golf Club. And, we grew up, and you start going, wow, what a great era that we grew up in. We had an unbelievable high school football, just all sports program, the University of Georgia, Vince Dooley, Herschel Walker. I mean, it's such a great town. Everybody knew everybody in the town. I mean, the days of that they're not there really anymore. I mean, heck, I could get a whipping on any street in my house. Any house on my street. I mean, that was the way we grew up, and you take it for granted as you get older, and then you realize, wow, it was a special time and a great place to grow up, and far enough away from Atlanta without the city. Really neat time to grow up there.
Truth be told, I'm a huge fan of Athens, Georgia. Went there for a Missouri Tiger Georgia football game. Mizzou actually got the win. You probably remember it or try to forget about it.
I appreciate you bringing that up. Thanks.
Hey, all I'm saying is that town is awesome. The campus is spectacular. I was really impressed, and by the people too, to be honest. So I'm guessing your childhood influence was really about your father and what he did for you based upon what you just said. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, very fair. My mom, she's unbelievable. My dad was, he was the out front, the personality guy. And my mom at the end of the day, my mom ran the show, and he knew it and everybody else knew it too. But I was blessed to have unbelievable parents. They're both still alive, although I just had a scare yesterday. My dad he's 84. He went to the country club yesterday to play golf, and the door was locked up top. So because of what's going on, he tried to walk down these steps, and he fell down these steps, and he skinned himself all up, had to get 6 stitches in his head. And, it's heartbreaking to watch him get older. I mean, my dad was always Superman to me, and to see something like that happen is, it's frustrating, but it's real life. You deal with real life, and he's tougher than a 50-cent steak. So he's hanging in there. He's beat up though. Lord have mercy. I saw a picture of him last night. It's like, oh my gosh, Dad, you look like 8 dudes beat you up. I mean, but he's tough, and he'll bounce back. And it was just great growing up there. I can't say it enough. I mean, I just awesome parents, and I played every sport. I was lucky enough I had baseball and golf scholarships, and my dad played baseball and played pro baseball for a little while and coached forever. And so it was a special place, things that I'll remember for the rest of my life.
So it seems like most people would have remembered Jason Brown more to be the athlete, the professional golfer. Like if they were thinking about your track to success, they would have thought, okay, this guy's going to be, some sort of an athlete, not a musician, singer, entertainer, artist. Is that?
I don't know if that's true really, because I did both when I was younger. I actually made a record in 1983, my freshman year in high school. So I made kind of a rap kind of record. It was a song. Honestly, it was a song about. It was called DUI because my mother was the head of the MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving chapter, and so we made this record, a 12-inch record, and put a couple songs. I'd never even seen a white kid rap before. I mean, I've always got to march to the beat of my own drum, and it's funny. I was playing American Junior Golf at the time, and guys that I grew up with that I'm still good friends with, Phil Mickelson and Jim Furyk, guys like that I grew up playing with. Phil, I think, told me last year, he's like, I think I still got that record somewhere. I mean, I'm like, please don't find it and bring it out. I don't want nobody to hear that. But I always did both. And I was strange, I guess, looking back now. I mean, I realized that. I mean, I realized I was odd. And again, in that era, also rap was just kind of coming around, and me doing that and being a white kid that, could also shoot 65 playing golf. I mean, I didn't realize how strange it was. I mean, looking back now, I realize that it is very different. And, but my mom always told me God never gives you anything he doesn't intend for you to use. So I was a good athlete. I was good at music. And so I did both, and it never felt strange to me because it was who I was. But I get people all the time just look at it and go, wow, you're the weirdest guy. And I'm like, yeah, I guess maybe. But I was being authentic, as just being myself. And I just didn't pay much attention to there was other people that discouraged, the music. And there was people that, that loved the music and said, why do you play golf or do other sports? And it's like, I'm just doing my thing,
As big as Mickelson's gotten on social media now, maybe you could have taught him a few rap songs or country music songs, because he might actually put it out there.
The rhythm, we got to work on his dancing and stuff. I've seen him do a couple of dance moves, and it's not good. No. It is not good. He came, I think it was maybe last year or 2 years ago. He was we were playing San Diego, and him and Amy came to the show. It was packed and crazy, and I had a little table set up for him, and I had a security guard there because he's a big deal. I just said, Phil can sit here, and y'all make sure nobody bothers him so they can enjoy the show. And honestly, he was leaving the next day to go to a tournament. So probably second or third song in, I looked and they were gone from the table. And I thought, well, we had lunch and we spent some time before the show, and he's got to go tomorrow. I get it. He watched a couple songs and then they took off. And so then I kind of go back to doing my thing on stage, and I look, and they're right in the middle of the dance floor, right in the middle of the crowd. He's kind of doing the two-step in one place. Now, Amy can dance, because she was a cheerleader. But it was literally, they stayed right there the entire show.
That's cool.
An hour and 15 minutes, they were right there in the middle of the floor, and it was awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, everybody. I really want to tell you about Ahead, one of our new partners this season, and now the official headwear provider of Tracks to Success. Creativity, a sharp look, dozens of styles to choose from. Ahead's been supplying the most prestigious events and outfitting the world's top golfers for 25 years. And it's perfect for you as well. So if you're looking to dress for success, make sure you think ahead. Here's your chance to save big. Visit aheadusashop.com now and use the code TTSPOD. That's TTSPOD, and receive 20% off your purchase. Ahead, the finest in headwear, the official headwear of the Tracks to Success podcast, and available at aheadusashop.com. All right, let's talk about college golf. And then your chance really to play professionally.
Right.
Tell me about what that was really like, because I don't think most who would be listening to this podcast understand just how difficult it is, A, to get out there with an opportunity, and B, to have any kind of longevity in the game.
It is, golf is just such a, people said, I really loved baseball. I was very good in baseball. I had some scholarship offers there, and I never thought I would be quite big enough. So I thought golf and even I was torn at the time because I wanted to do music too. And really music is probably my first true love. But golf for sure, I knew like if I'm good enough, I can make a living. Music, everybody's been to a bar or somewhere and seen somebody opening a show and gone, oh my God, that that guy or that girl is the best I've ever seen. And you'll go back 3 or 4 years from now and they'll be right there at that same bar, or for whatever reason they couldn't chase the dream. They were afraid, whatever circumstances, the right person didn't hear them. So you just don't know how that's going to shake out. And in golf, I knew like if I'm good enough, I can make a living. And right at my senior year in high school, if you remember, I mean, I was an AJGI All-American and was recruited by all the big schools and everything. And it was right. If you remember the Jan Kemp situation that went on at Georgia with the football, with grades and everything, where they put a lot of restrictions on there. I mean, she was a professor, and there was a whole accusation of some athletes not, performing correctly. So they really went really hard on GPA and SAT scores and all that stuff. And honestly, I was golf and girls and music. Grades. I didn't care much about that. I mean, I always got the work done, but I was always a guy that just kind of skated by, even though I was probably smarter than that. I just kind of do enough to get by. So right when that happened was really my coming out my senior year of high school, 87. So my GPA was just not good. I had a high enough SAT score, but my GPA was just not good at all. And so it was like, okay, they were trying to force student athletes to go into these remedial classes, which was really, they were just trying to weed people out. They were trying to force people out. And so last second, instead of going to Georgia on a full golf scholarship, I went to a school called Central Alabama. It was called Alex City at the time. And it was one of the top junior colleges in the country. And I went over there last second. And then there was a kid named Tai Tashima who was Tommy Nakajima's protege. And he was going to Georgia Tech. Puggy Blackman was the coach there. I know you know who Puggy is. Yep. And they had a great program. And, Bill McDonald and David Duvall and Charlie Reimer, a bunch of guys were there. And he got over here, and all of a sudden Mizuno he was, a Mizuno guy, and he couldn't hardly speak English. So last second, Puggy was like, he sent him to Alex City. So all of a sudden I walked in there as an AJG All-American. This kid from Japan that nobody had ever seen, who quite honestly, our freshman year in college was maybe the best college player in the country. Like, never seen him. He had never been over here. He was unbelievable. He played in a bunch of majors here in the States. He won multiple times in Japan. But so all of a sudden him and I walk in there, and we had Ole Nordberg, a Swedish kid who was fantastic, and Per Johansson, who you know who that is. Per Johansson was there, played in 2 Ryder Cups. Yes. And all of a sudden it was like we were beating teams, like we beat every team in Division I my freshman year. So every team in Division I my freshman year. Excuse me. Dogs, Louis, shut up. Sorry.
I love it. I love it.
We beat, I mean, like I averaged 72.3 my freshman year. I won 3 times, and I was the 5th man on the team, on a college team. And you've been around golf to know good enough. You might, on top teams, you have a couple of guys that can maybe light it up, and then it starts. I mean, like we had 5 guys every week that could shoot 65, and it was crazy. I mean, we were playing tournaments and still competing against some Division I schools, the Alabama Intercollegiate, and all of a sudden we're winning about 30 shots against Alabama, Auburn. I mean, like, they're like, what is this team? It was insane. We could have won NCAAs with these my freshman year.
So
crazy.
You get out there, you're playing mini tours, and you're getting your shot on what our listeners would need to know is the AAA to the PGA Tour. Why did you give it up?
Well, it's and again, when I was playing, I just turned 50. So when I was playing, there wasn't near the money out there. You had not had Tiger Woods effect, and honestly, every player that plays professional golf since the moment that he came on should send him a Christmas letter and a card and a gift card or something every year, because he made the purses increase 100%. Like, and that was really the Tiger Woods effect. So when I started those mini tours, the Coastal Carolina tour, and it wasn't even the Hooters tour wasn't there. It was called the TC Jordan tour the very first year I played. So that my first year out there on the TC Jordan tour, you had Ken Duke, Charlie Reimer, Jerry Kelly, Jim Furyk, Franklin Lang. I mean, like, it was unbelievable, the guys that were out there playing. I mean, every week, and you still kind of have to do that because players have gotten better. But I mean, you're going out there playing these mini tour events, and when you've been a good amateur and a good college player, you get to play in the big, the Sonny Hanna and the Western Am and all the big, all the big Monroe Invitational, all those big tournaments are all on top tier golf courses, incredible places. All of a sudden, you're out on these mini tours, and you're playing a little daggum podunk goat track there, and all of a sudden, you still got to shoot 63 every day. Like, you didn't know how to do it. It was eye opening, and you got some kid coming out there from like North Dakota State shooting 25 under. You're like, who is that guy? And you realize how good everybody is. And so I was playing out there, and I had some success. I was able to win. I've won a lot of golf tournaments, professional golf tournaments in my life, and it's just tough. And there wasn't the money out there, and all of a sudden, married and kids, and it's like I didn't have the resources at the time. You'd have to kind of find sponsorship money, and there wasn't company sponsorship money till you got on the big tour. Guys, it's like, once you get to the big tour, I don't need sponsorship. They give you everything. You need the help when you're playing mini tours and things. So it was amazing, and it was fun. I had some great times, some great memories, but I just then all of a sudden it's like, okay, what am I going to do? And I was still trying to do music. The schedules don't match up. In golf, it's time to get up, and when music, that's when I go to bed now. So it's a very different schedule, and guys were fascinated. We'd be on the golf course, and they're asking me all these questions about music. I'm like, hey, I'm trying to play golf here. Like, I'm not trying to talk about songs and stuff like that. But I get it. They were fascinated by that, and I'm going, yeah, but I don't. I'm making a living. I need to make this 8-footer here. Stop talking about music. So it was an interesting time, and looking back, I wouldn't trade it for anything. But when I got done playing, I didn't have enough money to stay out there and pay bills and pay for a kid and everything. And so my dad, I obviously I could be in the car business with my dad. I knew how to do that, but that wasn't really where my heart was at. So then I became a club professional and a teaching pro, and I've always had a real gift for teaching, and I've taught and worked with a lot of PGA Tour players, and actually one of the top teachers in the game, John Tillery, who teaches tons of guys on the tour, teaches Ricky Fowler and a bunch of guys. I actually taught John when he was in college and taught him when he first turned pro, and I was working with a guy, if you remember, named Blake Adams, who played on the tour for several years before he got injury. And I kind of helped Blake get to the tour. And then I wanted to go do music. And I kind of, JT was coming along as a teacher, and I knew he knew what I had taught him that worked. So then they started their journey together and had a lot of success. And, JT's gone on to be one of the top teachers in the game today. So
yeah.
I just, I didn't know what else to do. I loved golf, and I wanted to be around that. So I knocked around as a club pro for a while, and being an assistant pro, and really just teaching mostly, and still playing a lot. But I couldn't make music go away. I could never cut it off in my mind. And I was constantly writing and working on stuff. And finally I just said, I want to try this one more time. And I made this record ride through the country, and, here we are all these years later, 7 albums. And I'd have never dreamed it would happen, but I'm living right in the middle of it. It's amazing.
Season 2 of Tracks to Success is brought to you by Presentation Partners. Presentation Partners is a unique team of award-winning executives helping you build a presentation others will be talking about. Presentation Partners teaches you the true art of storytelling. And if you haven't heard about their neuroscience of persuasion, you'll see how valuable it is to own it. Whether you're a company or an entrepreneur, Presentation Partners is the team you need behind you. For almost 15 years, they've helped clients raise millions in capital and countless dollars in sales simply by making top leaders successful presenters. The time is now to find your authentic voice and learn your authentic story. Presentation Partners, creating persuasive story presentations based on something other than just your good looks. All right, Colt, so obviously you get the push toward music, and if anybody knows anything about golf at the lower levels before you get to the big tour, you know about the travel. It's not glamorous. Same thing goes with you starting off your music career. My guess is buses, and maybe not even great buses. What was that like? Give us the story on that.
Buses, wow, Craig, that'd have been awesome. Hell, I was driving myself in the Ford Expedition to shows when we first started. I mean, there was no buses. There was no it was just, get there however you can. And man, it was crazy. We went, then we would be in a minivan and the vans, and you kind of, if you want it bad enough, that's what you do, and that's the way it started. And it went from that, and then you start having some success, and then used a friend of mine's motorhomes, and it was that for a while. But that's fine when you're there, but it's not necessarily conducive to sleeping during the, and we were driving it ourselves then too. So and now it's different. I got a nice big Prevost bus and a big queen size bed and every DirecTV channel and all that. But at the end of the day, it is still a bus. You are still rolling. I'm spending 200 plus nights a year in that thing rolling up down the road normally. Obviously not right now, but it's amazing. But it's the travel. There's a few artists that fly around in private jets. I'm a blue collar guy, so I can't afford to do that. But it's you get to play and you get to work, and it's an amazing thing to get to do. And you get tired out there like anything else, but it's still, when the music starts. I mean, I've played throwing up with my crew guy holding a trash can on the side of the stage. I've played with kidney stones, all that. You just do whatever you got to do to make it work. I love it so much. So I've been really blessed. It's been tough at times, but I wouldn't trade it.
First time on the stage performing. Do you remember it?
Wow, no, golly, that was actually as Colt Ford, yes, but as
Colt Ford.
As Colt Ford, really the first big show I did was it's been July 4th, 2008. So we're coming up on a bit of a anniversary here. And I had never, I'd done some little things here and there, but not like a real show kind of thing. And we were playing in Valdosta, Georgia at their 4th of July thing. And the radio station there, my best friend and CEO of the record label is from there. So he had gotten the radio to play it a little bit, and they said they'd got a good response, but you never really know, till you get out there. And all of a sudden we get out there, and they're like, we normally have 700 or 800 people, 1,000 people maybe for this fireworks show, and the we'll have the show before it, and so could be good. And all of a sudden we get out there, and there's 5,000 people there, and it was like, whoa. And then I signed autographs. We got done with the show at probably 8:30, 9 o'clock, and at 1 o'clock in the morning I was still standing there signing autographs and taking pictures, and that was the moment. Was like, wow, maybe we might have something here. And and here we are. I still do it the same way.
How proud were you of you at that moment? Because you just mentioned, Colt Ford debut and your album Ride Through the Country, which included a couple cool songs, by the way, No Trash in My Trailer and Dirt Road Anthem, which I want to talk about a little bit. But I mean, seriously, you're signing those autographs. People are in line probably forever. And I know you probably stood there and not just signed everyone, but had a conversation. You gave people a little something that they would take away, which is, to me, one of your greatest gifts. How proud were you of you?
Well, I probably more than I realized. I didn't think about it like that at the time. The oddest thing was I had a kidney stone, and I was dealing with a kidney stone at the time. So standing up and just kind of fidgeting around, moving around. I mean, you do, if you've ever had one, I don't even wish them on people I don't like. I mean, it's tough. I just remember just going, wow, I proved them wrong. I was right, that I believed if I made this music, and people, when I did it, people were like, you're crazy. Cause I went back to music at 30 something years old, and I was, 320 pounds with a cowboy hat on and doing something very different. And people are like, you've lost your mind. I mean, and I really went all in. I just believed, and I don't know why, but I'm glad my mama always told me I was stubborn. And I guess I believed if I made music that people liked, that it would work. And that album became a gold album for me. And of course, Dirt Road Anthem was mine and Brantley Gilbert that we wrote and put on it was my song. And then my buddy Jason Aldean recorded it and became the biggest song of his career. And actually, I think it's one of the biggest, it's been one of the top 10 songs of all time in country music, downloaded wise, which is crazy. So I would have you never would have dreamed it, but here we are.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And that's something I wanted to talk to you about, because you are linked to other singers and songwriters, and you are a songwriter who also performs. And that's one of your greatest gifts. Jason Aldean, you just mentioned, he's one of them. Who are the guys or the women in country music that you're tight with and that you could say, man, yeah, me and him, me and her?
I'm friends with a lot of people. Again, that's back to me. I just love people. I love artists. So, I mean, I'm pretty cool with everybody. I mean, obviously that song was life-changing for me and Brantley. It was life-changing for Jason, and took his career to just in the stratosphere. So it's nice to know that you were part of that in some kind of way. And Brantley and I have written another one of his first number one together called Country Must Be Countrywide. So I've had some songs cut by a lot of different people, and those two were monster big songs. And good friends of mine. I'm good friends. Brantley is one of my best friends. Jake Owen is another really close friend of mine. Justin Moore, and me and Toby Keith are really tight. So I'm friends with a lot of guys. I just as long as
what
you're
a
cool,
shocker.
if you're a good person, man, I can hang out with you. I can find some common ground with whoever it is.
Let's skip to album number 4, Declaration of Independence, because it hit number 1, right? I mean, that was, just mentioned Jake Owen. That was when you did the duet with Jake Owen. So you really like mixing it up with these other people. I mean, you're your own performer, but you're not willing to kind of give up the stage just for yourself. You want other people to be a part of all this with you.
Well, when I first started, if you follow my music now and to where I'm at now, I'm doing a lot more solo stuff, me completely singing. I've always been able to sing. I was always kind of afraid of it, and I was just a little afraid of it, so I wasn't sure. And I would shy away from it. So when it came to the chorus part of the singing part, I'd get, a Jake Owen, or I've done songs with Luke Bryan, with Eric Church, with Tim McGraw. I mean, I've worked with everybody. I mean, and been so blessed that those guys have taken, I'm on an independent record label. I don't have a big monster machine behind me. So I had those guys, I couldn't pay them to do it. They had to do it because they believed in me and they believed in the music. And I've been so lucky and so humbled and blessed that the artists that I've worked with, when I look at the list, I'm like just Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer, some of the greatest that have ever been. And they've done songs with me, and that's very humbling. And I like mixing it up now. That when I first started doing it, there was very few duets. There was one every now and then. Nobody had an album full of duets. And now you see artists now, a lot of these younger artists are doing it a lot. It's funny to hear them talk, FGL and some of the guys going, we didn't even know we could do stuff like that till we saw Colt Ford. And so that's pretty cool that in some way that you influence some other artists and influence the music in some kind of way. And I'm very humbled by that.
You perform a lot. I mean, you work, and when it's all going great, you're out there. You perform in front of big audiences, and you do some smaller stuff. You're tied to Diamond Resorts, and you do a lot of their smaller corporate gigs for their membership, as we can see here looking at you. Which do you like better? Or is that even a fair question?
They're just very different. They're very different things playing in front of, I've played in front of 75,000. But 100,000. But doing the Diamond things, we do acoustically and it's stripped down, and there's 200 or 300 people. I truly love those as much as anything. It's a very different experience, but I get to talk and get to tell stories and interact with the fans. When you're 75,000 people and it's cranked up to 11, and I got my ears in, like all it is just step on the gas and go hard as you can, like a roller coaster with your hair on fire. I mean, The acoustic thing is different. So sometimes we'll do an hour show, and I may play 5 or 6 songs. I may play 10 or 11 songs. It really just depends on what we're doing, interacting. And a lot of artists don't like that, but obviously, you know me, I love the talking and the people side of it. So I love to interact and tell stories, and I let them ask me questions, and I get all kinds of questions, you know. I mean, and there's such a wide demographic of people. So for me, I look at it like, I figure most of these people in this room might not know who I am. So it's a chance to make new fans. It's a chance for me to make an impression on them. And sometimes there's older people. They're from all different religions, all different ethnicity, all different incomes. And it's so cool to be sitting in that room with all these people enjoying some music and telling them some stories. And I get asked crazy questions. Sometimes the kids will be up there. It's like, what's your favorite color? Can you do a backflip? I'm like, do you want to see me do a back? I wish I could do a backflip. I mean, you know, sometimes you're like, get your kid and tell them to quit asking me these crazy questions. But it's fun, man. I love all of it. I love all the different aspects of it.
Talk about the travel for a quick second. You've got the driving around song, right?
Yeah.
I'm guessing you kind of like driving around on the road, but at the same time, it's got to be really difficult on family. I know your kids are a little bit older, but what was that like?
Difficult, difficult a lot at times. One of the reasons I never moved from Athens, Georgia at the time is because my wife, Jessica, I was going to be gone so much. Her parents were there. My parents were there. And, I knew she had help, but that doesn't change the fact it's tough. I mean, it's tough being gone. It's tough watching, a baseball game through FaceTime or, it's tough. I mean, and, there's looking back, I think maybe there's a lot of things I maybe could have done different. It's a bit of a rub of the green as far as the golf term goes, or catch-22. It's like, to have some success, this is what you got to go do. And I had to, there's times when you go, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Is it worth the effect it has on family to go do what I do and make a difference in other people's life, and at the same time missing something in your own life or your kid's life? And that might be a question I ponder for the rest of my life. I don't know. But I've been lucky. I've been lucky to have great family and great support and great friends. And there's definitely, you always look back and realize I'd have done some things very differently. But it all in all, you just got to try to keep your eyes forward and keep moving forward and trying to do the best you can.
I'm proud to be talking today with country music artist Colt Ford. I know you play in some golf events because I've seen you play in some golf events. I've seen Lee Bryce play. I've seen Cole Swindell play. Given your college background, your pro background, I'm guessing you get into their pocket and take a little bit of their money and all that sort of good stuff. You ever play with Vince Gill, take any of his money?
Vince is a very good player. I mean, there's a lot of guys that can play, that are good players. Jake Owen's a very good player. Charles Kelly plays good. At the end of the day, it's a fun kind of, jab conversation with it. I mean, like, in all honesty, listen, I mean, I played professional golf for a living. I put my score in a box and it paid the bills. None of those guys did that. So for me to argue golf background with them is not even really, it's not even a real conversation. That being said, those guys had played a lot more than I have, and I was a way different guy back then. So those guys can really play good. They did a thing a few years ago, Golf Digest will do like where they rate music artists or whatever, and they were torn between Vince and I as 1 and 2, and they kind of tried to kind of bait me into saying that I was better. And again, at the end of the day, if we're going to compare resumes, it's not a comparison with anybody in the music business. I mean, they can't compare a golf resume with mine. I can't compare a guitar playing, singing resume with Vince Gill either, and don't claim to. So I was like, listen, it doesn't matter to me. Guys that play golf for a living, guys that really play, they know. And it kind of turned into a little bit of a big deal, and because they ended up making Vince one and me two, because I wouldn't say what they wanted me to say. Because I was like, what? I mean, do I get a trophy? Am I getting money if I'm number? I mean, like, so there was no reason for me to argue it, but it turned into a little thing. And then of course friends like my buddy Charlie Reimer, and guys that were, Golf Channel guys that I've known they started talking about it, and I was like, listen, I don't know if it made Vince mad or not, but like I said, that's not to be arrogant. It's just, it is what it is. I've played the Grand Ole Opry once, and Vince Gill is a staple and a member, and I'll probably never be that. So to compare music resume with Vince would be insane. He's one of the best singers of all time. I mean, one of the best guitar players of all time, and just a great guy. But we've never really squared it. I mean, like if we really want to play like a 72 hole, let me just say, I'm not scared of anybody. Let me say that.
Well, that's good. I'm glad.
I don't know if they're scared of me, but I assure you, I'm not scared. So I just got too much history to fall back on.
There you go.
In addition to hosting this podcast, Kraig leads the Kann Advisory Group, focused on elevating communication for companies and individuals. Company consulting, empowering team and individual workshops, mind-altering webinars, and Kraig's inspiring keynotes for your conference or company meeting. They're all on the menu of services. Kann Advisory helps companies clarify their message, helps professionals build and showcase their brand, and helps everyone present their best selves. So if you're the leader of a team or company looking to give your employees a game-changing one-day experience, or an individual who wants to become a speaker and presenter that gets other people talking, visit CannAdvisory.com. And when you do connect, make sure to mention the Tracks to Success podcast to receive a special discount on any of the Kann Advisory services. That's CannAdvisory.com. Now back to the interview.
Before we go, a couple of other questions for you. The focus of my career has always been about communication. You know me from Golf Channel. That's how I know you, through golf and through music, etc. I spend a lot of time now helping others with presenting a brand, learning how to present in front of audiences. That's what I do. You are in front of audiences. You are an entrepreneur. You have to build your own brand. Are you comfortable with that?
It's funny you say that, because I am 1,000,000% comfortable with that. And a lot of music artists, not just music artists, but a lot of professionals and a lot of other sports or other entertainment or other arenas or other businesses, a lot of people don't understand brand. And that is one of the things that I've always been so inspired by and fascinated by with you, is that you do understand that. And I don't understand why people don't get it, because I wanted to create that. It wasn't just me, the music artist. I wanted to create a brand that when you saw that logo, you knew what it was. If I go to Japan and I see them golden arches, I'm going to get me a Big Mac with extra sauce, because I know what that is. It's such an important thing. So many people in music, quite honestly, have seriously dropped the ball with branding and logos and things of that nature, and being consistent and concise with what you're doing and who you are or who your brand is. People really miss that a lot, Kraig. And it's nice to see that you're doing to try to help people understand that, because it is a big deal. And if you can create a brand, you can just go and do a lot of things in a lot of different arenas, and people, oh no, that's Colt Ford. Yes, he plays golf. He does me. That's an important deal. So I love it. I've always tried to. When I first came to Nashville, I was amazed that more people didn't understand it. They didn't look at it that way. Just recently, I don't want to say who a couple of these artists is, but they're a couple of the biggest artists in our genre. And I asked a person, I said, if I ask you to draw their logo or my logo, which one? And they looked at me they were like, well, I don't know what their logo is, but yours is this with the bull horns, and then you have the Mr. Good Time one, which is a smiley face and cowboy hats. I'm like, how is that possible that these two artists are so much bigger than me? These are $1 million a night artists, and you don't know what their logo is. That's poor brand management, and that's not good. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be, the kid cutting grass. Paperboy delivering, washing cars, mobile pet grooming. If you brand it right, you can make a difference and you can be successful. And that's a big thing for me.
Well, it's probably for you because you take more ownership of it. There's some that have the huge label behind them, the huge team behind them, and sometimes it loses its authenticity. You manage
Right.
it, you're on top of it, and it's probably one of your strengths. I've always believed you don't have to be the best baseball player to be one of the fan favorites. You don't have to be
Right.
one of the best sportscasters to connect with your audience. You just got to be able to find a way to win the game of relationships and
Absolutely.
making people feel something when you're in front of them so they walk out the door feeling emotionally charged to go tell somebody, man, you should have been there. You should have
Right.
seen this guy. You should have seen this woman. That, to me, is what is the most important thing. I want to ask you about patriotism real quick, because I've, in your concerts, seen you go all in on the red, white, and blue.
Yes, sir.
That's a big deal for you.
It absolutely is. And you know, obviously we got a lot of things going on in the country right now and a lot of different things, but, you know, at the end of the day, the men and women that put their life on the line for our freedom, I don't care what side of the fence you're on politically, Democrat, Republican, whatever. You can be whatever you want to, but we owe those men and women a debt of gratitude that can never be repaid. You know, again, I try to stay out of the political lane. I play music. I'm not a politician. Quite honestly, a lot of the politicians now are not politicians. I don't know what they are. I meant to, but I try to stay out of that. But I don't shy away from the men and women that fight for our freedom so that you can have that opinion on whatever side of the fence you want to be on, or for those that like to straddle the middle. I just believe that we owe them a debt of gratitude that can never be repaid, and I'll never stop being proud to be here, to be an American. I know there's a lot of negative stuff going on right now, but I can control me and I can control my heart and my actions. And that's really what it boils down to, Craig. So many people need to take some daggone responsibility for their self, for their actions, for what you do with other people and what you do with your kids or whatever. I mean, like, it's my job to handle to sweep up my porch and control my heart and my emotions and my feelings and to be a better human being. And I'm not going to put that on anybody else. I'm going to take ownership in that. And I'm just going to support the men and women that fight for our freedom. It's so important right now.
Yeah.
And that's the reason we're here, sitting here doing what we do. It's the reason I get to play music, reason you get to do what you do. And so I'm never going to shy away from that.
Pretty good segue, Colt. You put out an album called Every Chance I Get. And my guess is you're probably pretty proud of that album because you've gotten a chance to do what you love so much and do your thing in front of a lot of people. What's your greatest triumph? What are you most proud of?
Wow. I don't know. God, Craig, I know you're going to ask me all these hard questions. What am I most proud of? I mean, listen, as a human being, anybody that thinks that they're, you know, we've had one perfect person, I think, that walked the earth and we decided to crucify him. So I'm not perfect. I make a lot of mistakes. I still make them. I've made a lot of mistakes. As a son, as a brother, as a husband, as a father, we all do that. But I think I'm most proud of just trying to be a good human being. I try to be good to other people. I mean, no matter, I don't care where you're from. I don't care what you do. I try to find common ground with another person, and we can do that. All this racial stuff. I mean, like, listen, I mean, I'm friends with a lot of Black African American athletes or celebrity. I mean, we're not, this whole thing that we're all so different is just not true. I mean, it's just not true. I mean, they won't, you know, Ray Allen, who's a friend of mine and a Hall of Fame basketball player, we're very different sides politically. We play a lot of golf together, very good player. But we talk a lot about different things and we're very different. But at the end of the day, we find common ground, and I respect him as a human being, and he does me. And that's all you got to do is find common ground with other human beings. And if you want to do that, you can. And I would say that was what I would like my legacy, if anything, to be. I mean, I appreciate, you know, that I've written some hit songs and I've won some professional golf tournaments and I've done some really cool things. But I want people to say, I love Charlie Daniels. He's kind of one of my heroes. I want people to say that he did what he said. He stood up for what he believed in. When he saw something wrong, he wasn't afraid to speak up. I mean, it didn't make any difference what color you were, who you loved, what religion you were. I mean, find common ground and be a good human, good person to other people. And I really worked hard at that. It don't always turn out in your favor. In the world that you've lived in, so you help people, you do good, and it don't always work out for you. But if you're doing it if you're doing it because you want something back, you're doing it for the wrong reason anyway.
Well said. Before we go, let's help our listeners a little bit. This podcast is called Tracks to Success, and I think we both know that every career is not a straight line. There's different angles we take, and there's different bumps in the road. It's not smooth all the time. You had your humble beginnings, and you've been knocked down a couple of times, but you've been right there doing your thing. What advice would you give to our listeners who might want to be that entrepreneur or give it a shot to build a name for themselves? What do they need to know?
You just can't quit. If you believe in it and you believe in what you're doing, you just cannot let them stop you. I remember, obviously there's a lot of talk about Michael Jordan these days with the Last Dance thing, but going back and stuff for him years ago, I remember him saying, you can't, I've never been afraid to fail. I've been afraid not to try. And so that was kind of always me. You've got to figure out some sort of way to believe in yourself. First and foremost, you've got to believe in yourself. And the world we live in today, I've watched with my kids, there's lots of, it's a different thing. There's lots of bullying and things that were going on because it's easy to say something ugly to somebody behind a computer. When you and I were growing up, you had to say it to their face, and you say the wrong thing and you might be, putting a stake on your eye because you got knocked out. So you got to believe in yourself, and you just cannot let them deny you. If you want it, you have just got to fight and claw and beg and borrow to do whatever you got to do to put yourself in that opportunity. And, and keep working at it. Just, so golf has taught me so much. I remember hearing Gary Player say, they said, boy, you hold a bunch of bunker shots. You're lucky. And he's like, the more I practice, the luckier I get. It's like, that's a nice way of saying, like, yes, there's luck involved, but I worked my tail off for this. And that's what you got to do. You've got to figure out a way to believe in yourself and just keep trying. Everybody and their brother told me I was crazy to go back and do music. And honestly, they're probably right. But I just believed in me. I believed in what I could do. I knew what I would put into it. And if you get up every day and put your feet on the ground and say, hey, I'm going to figure out a way to do something today. I'm going to do something positive. I'm going to do something good to another person. And I'm going to figure out a way to put myself where I want to be. And my dad coached all these years, and, he was real big. I mean, it's just so big on team and not talking about yourself and all that stuff. I remember him telling me years ago, he was like, son, you can run around and tell everybody how great you are all you want to, but when you're really great, they'll tell you. So yeah, I just try to get up and go after it every day like that,
Well, you're not crazy for going into the business. The only thing that's crazy is that people don't come watch you perform. I can't thank you enough for a little bit of time. You're a special talent. You're a special guy, and I can't wait to see you perform again on the stage. Thank you so much for being a part of this thing.
Kraig, it's my pleasure. You've been nice to me from the moment I've met you. I've enjoyed watching you work and watching you through Golf Channel, and obviously lots of things are changing there right now and changing in the world. But what I love about what you've done too is with this right here, you know what your passion is, and you've chased it, and you're helping people, and you didn't let anybody stop you from, one door closes, another one opens. If you can't find the door, you crawl in the window, get you a chainsaw and cut in there, and you're doing that. And I got a lot of respect for that, and I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you soon, my friend.
Well, thank you. That means a lot coming from you. Colt Ford, everybody, thank you so much.
Take care, guys.
In our conversation, Colt talked about his plan to pursue a career in golf, only to see it change in a way most wouldn't have seen coming, or actually maybe they would have. That leads me to my one last thing. If you want to be an influencer, take stock in your career at multiple points to assess where you are with your enthusiasm for making a difference. I find that oftentimes we become our best selves when there's a real passion for what we're doing. In other words, we give more to others in terms of our talent and impact when we give ourselves the very best platform to shine. Do a self-check now. Then pretend you're Colt Ford, looking into the audience. Is the crowd enjoying themselves? Are you delivering something that gives people a lasting impression? You see, we all want jobs that give us a chance to do special things. Going from golf to music like Colt did might seem a little bit drastic, but he followed his heart. Do the same. Find ways to make your own audience cheer, and I guarantee your tracks to success will be a whole lot easier. By the way, take a moment to rate this podcast. Give it a review on whatever platform you found it. And if you have a guest you'd like me to spend some time with, tweet it using the handle @TracksToSuccess. Until next time, I'm Kraig Kann. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Tracks to Success, brought to you by Presentation Partners, visual storytellers passionate about connecting presenters with their audience. Don't forget to subscribe to the show for more great interviews and thoughts on reaching your highest personal and professional summit. You can follow Kraig on Twitter and Instagram using the handle @Kraig Kann. And for exclusive Tracks to Success content and news about our upcoming guests, you can find Tracks to Success on Twitter. It's @TracksToSuccess.